Good morning, scholars. Happy Thursday. So we're going to focus on some transformations today. As I look at number 24, it says x squared plus 10 is translated down 10 units. So I know that y equals x squared plus 10. 10 units down is going to go ahead and affect my y-intercept. My y-intercept is right here. So I would say y equals x squared plus 10 minus 10. You notice these are a zero pair, or they cancel out and equal 0. So y equals x squared. That would be the function to describe number 24. I'm going to move on from up and down, because we already said that that's the y-intercept, and I'm going to move on to narrowed. If something is narrowed right here, that would be the graph of f of x is equal to 1/2 x squared. Keep in mind, you guys, f of x is also just saying y. It's saying the function of x, or it's saying the dependent variable. When you plug in all of this information, this is the dependent variable that is the total of this quadratic function. Slight side note. Okay, so we want it to be narrowed. Right now it says 1/2 x squared. If we want to make it more narrow, I want to make this number bigger. So this is my a value. So for a to be greater than 1, it's going to be narrowed. For a to be less than 1, it's going to be widened. Keep in mind, this is in relation to the parent function, which is y equals x squared. So this one's already at 1/2. So in order to make it more narrow, quite frankly, we don't have to go greater than 1. We could just go greater than 1/2, because that would still make it more narrow. But just to be certain, f of x equals x squared. That would make this function more narrow. Now the opposite. We look at widened. Here, our x coefficient is just 1. So in order to widen it, I would actually make that into a fraction. I would say 1/2 x squared. Okay, the next part of this is matching each function to its graph. Remember, this is in relation to the parent function. So we talked about if a is greater than 1, it makes it more narrow. If a is less than 1, it makes it more wide. We also talked about that b value at the end. Just like we saw in y equals mx plus b, an example would be this -3. That's my y-intercept. It moves the parabola up and down. Here again, it's at -3. This would move it down 3 units. This would move it down 3 units. This would move it up 3 units. So I think after that intro, you guys can go ahead and try this on your own. Go ahead and finish this worksheet. Have a wonderful Thursday.